Welcome back. Fino here with the boss guide for Meltryllis. As with Passion Lip, this is a 3-phase encounter. At the start, BB slots will give a single character a passive star buff, in other words a free 20/30. Melt begins with 2 buffs. The first of these is KPO. This gives her resistance to all turn-skipping debuffs like your stuns and such. The more troublesome effect is that as her health gets lower, Melt gets tankier. Essentially, she has a Poppy passive, pre-rework. Her second buff is SG Retrofit, Sadistic Nature. As Melt's health gets lower, her attack will increase. On top of this, she'll target random party members with Taunt. Once her first bar breaks, you enter Phase 2. Melt loses Sadistic Nature and gains SG Retrofit, Doll Obsession. Every turn she debuffs one of your servants with attack down and skill seal. Break her second bar and you'll enter Phase 3. She loses Doll Obsession and gains SG Retrofit, Codependency. This is a constantly reapplied 1-turn debuff that reduces healing. In other words, a permanent heal reduction. Taking all this into account, it seems the design of this fight discourages slow defensive teams and favors ones that can rapidly pull out massive burst damage at the start of each bar. Now in the rerun that means Scotty, but we don't have that convenience. There's another wrinkle in that Phase 1 and 2 both have significant disruption mechanics. Random taunts can devastate glass cannons like Kintoki, while skill seals disrupt more technical attackers. Thankfully, the Alice Academy Mystic Code has both a targeted invulnerability and a cleanse. The invuln is quite nice if a key member gets targeted on an NP turn. Mash is also a strong pick and she provides a great deal of utility in all 3 phases. Almost as annoying as Melt's boss kit is her standard skill set. Crime Ballet is the biggest headache as it's a 2-hit evade, and she'll spam this a lot. You've got 2 ways around this. The first is to use an attacker with a built-in workaround. For instance, Taiga, Billy, and Chloe have sure hit on their NPs. I personally went with Moriarty to exploit a few things. First, the BB slot buff means that you will always meet the requirements for End of the Spider's Web, letting you charge at will. Secondly, Free Shooter lets you bypass Crime Ballet. Thirdly, Dynamics of an Asteroid applies a preemptive defense debuff to counter Melt's passive tankiness. One big advantage of this approach is that you can equip Fundana Chocolat for a ton of bonus damage. The second solution is with craft essences. Decapitating Bunny, Sweet Crystal with 1 strike, and Dante's Files can all bypass Crime Ballet. This gives you a degree of consistency that you can exploit with anti-divine characters like Nobunaga or big dick DPS like Jolter. As for the rest of her kit, Melt has a number of buffs that'll make her NP hit very hard. You need mitigation or a lot of cannon fodder. Her NP also purges buffs, but this applies after damage. That's only really a problem for Guts characters, but something to keep in mind. In my run, I used a Waver Moriarty combo as my mainstay, but with a spicy meme. Every other member of my party had Guda Poster Girl. In Phase 1, this helped to spread damage out. In later phases, this would let expendable members soak Melt's NP. The problem is that I ran Mash in front and she was a little too good at surviving. Real shame on that. On a final note, I think you could actually do a buff stacking setup to cheese this fight. You could borrow Musashi, pump her full of buffs, and send her off to the backline. When she comes back, you could 1-turn each of Melt's health bars and bypass her Poppy passive. That said, you'll have to plan it so she doesn't eat a Melt NP right off the bat. Kinda defeats the purpose of a buff stacking team if all your shit gets purged. That's pretty much it. Compared to the Passion Lip fight, there's a lot that can go wrong, so you may need a few tries if your Phase 1 RNG is especially bad. Otherwise, you've got a lot of ways to skin this cat. If you're underleveled and having extreme trouble, consider a Command Seal Revive. This is a long event, and you should have another set available for the final fight. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, by all means like, subscribe, and watch me play video games on Twitch. Every weekend, 3 PM Pacific Standard Time. See you there.